We're here. Um, so I think I figured out how to see the Facebook comments, but it would be really helpful if I could see all the comments because that's my jam is online learning and online education. I've been online teaching for almost 2 decades, 16 years total. This is my 17th, something like that. 27 years in a high school classroom. And my favorite thing to do is read to my students and to my daughters and to my clients. And it's joy to me. It doesn't feel like work. And I'm a workhorse, I will say. And I am excited about this. I know a few people join me live and I know a few people watch the afterplay, and that is all I care about right now is reaching those hearts and those minds. And if you have a reader in the house who's reluctant to read and they think reading is a bore and a chore, you send them my way. I have tons of pre-recorded videos waiting on YouTube for free that teach people of all ages how to read, from like elementary school all the way up through college. I have videos for all ages. And I also have tutoring in all subjects, K through college. If you have anyone who's struggling, hit me up. I have a slew of people working with me now, the best of the best. And yeah, so we're reading Freak the Mighty by Rodman Philbrook, and we're on chapter 8 tonight. Last night, they went to see the fireworks, and they, Max picks up, Manny's in the video. I mean, Manny's here live, but he's not in the book. So, he picks up Freak. Max picks up Freak and puts him on his shoulders, and then he ends up like running away from the gang members, Tony D and his gang, and they run into the pond to get out of their, out of their way, and they end up getting rescued by the cops, and it makes Max into a hero. But it's also the first time where the police say to Max, "What's your name?" And he says, "Maxwell." And then they ask Kevin, aka Freak, what his name is, and he says, "Freak the Mighty." That's his name. So, and his thing is Freak the Mighty slays jargons and fools and walks high above the world. And he finally got that perspective of what the grown-ups see because he's so little in chapter 7. And now in chapter 8, we're headed into this chapter is called Dinosaur Brain. And I can't see any comments, which means I kind of want to hold on one second. I can do this. I'm so used to this thing. Hold on. I want to go live on my page and live on this video. I think I can see the comments that way. And then, yeah, I can open that. Yeah, I feel like I got this. We got this. All right. And I have closed captioning on too, because that helps the struggling reader. And it's just really good. Even when you're not struggling, it's sometimes helpful to see the closed captioning, especially when reading a book. So now we're reading Dinosaur Brain. And of course, what two things come to your mind when you think of dinosaurs? Old, extinct. I think of Dino from the Flintstones. I don't know why. And of course, we've got large, right? And we know that Max is large. So, and then we've got brain next to dinosaur. So wonder what this chapter will be about. It turned out to be a cool story. I mean, a cool summer. Look at me, I can't read. All right, so hello, thank you, Roxy. Woohoo, we love freely reading. So here I'm going to start that chapter again. It turned out to be a cool summer. I figured we'd get in trouble for running into the pond. It looked bad for a while when the cops drove us home and I got all soaking wet and covered with gook. And when Grim was hosing me down, he had this really pruny look on his face, like he was smelling something really bad. But the cops made out like I was a hero or something, rescuing the poor, crippled midget kid. So Grim listens to the cops, and then he gives me this weird look, like, imagine my surprise. And he goes in the house, and then Graham comes running out in her nightgown with this big fluffy towel, and she really makes a fuss. Me rescuing Freak. What a joke, right? Except that's how it must have looked from a distance, because they never knew it was Freak who rescued me, or his genius brain and my big dumb body. Graham is there rubbing me with the towel, and her hands are shaking, and she's saying, "Oh, I saw those blue lights and I thought the worst." And Grim is behind her looking at me real intense and shaking his head, and he's saying, "Who'da thunk it?" And he's saying, "Would you have thunk it, Mabel?" Which is some kind of joke because Graham's name isn't Mabel. Anyhow, they take me inside, and the first thing Graham does is give me a bowl of ice cream. And Grim, he keeps shaking his head, and he goes, "What this young man needs is a cup of coffee, real coffee." And then he gets real busy to putting the filter in the machine and measuring out the coffee and standing by while it drips through. And he's got this stern look like he's thinking deep thoughts. By the time I polish off the ice cream, Grim is handing me coffee in a china cup from the set they never use. He gives me that cup like it's a really big deal. Maybe because I'm not allowed to drink coffee yet. And he's so grim-like and serious, I open my mouth to say, "What's the big deal? You really think this is my first cup of coffee? Yeah, right." And something happens and the words come out. "Thank you, sir." And it's like I'm possessed or something. I have no idea where the things I'm saying are coming from or why. So this part here shows, although he thinks he's dumb, because we're first person point of view here, we know the main character's thoughts and feelings and everything he's thinking. And we hear him call himself dumb, but he's saying like the thoughts that he wants to say. Of course, this is my first cup of coffee. And what's the big deal? Yeah, right. But what really comes out of his mouth is "Thank you, sir." And there's a level of maturity that comes with thinking what's in your head and then putting the filter on before it comes out. I know I have challenges in that area. I wouldn't lie about it. My filter is in heaven. That's my problem. My husband was my filter. And now I'm just let loose. Now she just has at it any way she likes. So he says, "Thank you, sir," and he thinks he's possessed. I go, "Thanks for the towel, Graham, and the ice cream. Could I have sugar in the coffee?" 2 teaspoons, please. And Grim clasps his hands together and says, "Of course you can, son." And it's like, whoa, because he never calls me that. Always Max or Maxwell or that boy. Next thing, he's clearing his throat and coughing into his fist. And Graham is looking at the two of us, and she gets this Graham-like glow. Like this is how it's supposed to be. The way things always happen on the Wonder Years, with the family getting all gooey and sentimental about something numb, about some numb thing the bratty kid did while he was having all his wonderful years or whatever. Boy, he's dissing Kevin there, right? Graham says, "I want you to promise me something, Maxwell, dear. Promise me you'll keep away from the hoodlum boy and his awful friends. Nobody got hurt this time, but I shudder to think what might have happened." And Grim, bless his pointed little head, he goes, "Maxwell can handle himself, can't ya, huh, Max?" Right, Max, not son, which is okay by me. "I can run," I say to Graham. "I see Tony D, that's what I'll do." "Good boy," Graham says. "I thought because you're so much bigger than he is, well, you just do that, dear. You run away." "He's not running away," Grim says, real impatient. "He's taking evasive action, avoiding a confrontation." That's a very different thing, right, Max? I nod and drink my coffee without slurping and decide it's better not to mention that Tony D carries a knife and he's probably got guns too, because then Graham would only worry, and she's such a clunker when she's worried. I'm going to stop there and talk about the word clunker. Have you ever been in a car that's a clunker? The kind of car like you don't know if you're going to really get to your destination or not. and you get excited when it turns on, and then it gets you kind of halfway, or it stalls. That's a clunker, right? Like like the car kind of clunky, right? So he's smart enough to like, no, I shouldn't say this worry Graham about the guns and the knives. She's a clunker when she's worried, meaning like she stops and starts. She gets worried, and then stops. You get it? So he's like, it's a rich sentence right there. I just had to pause for a moment and let you like chew on that for a little while. Okay. Like I said, it turns out to be a pretty cool summer. Usually what I do is just hang around and look at my comic books and watch the tube, or go shopping with Graham if she really makes a fuss. I hate the beach because the beach is stupid. The cool crowd looking sleek and tanned, and aren't we gorgeous? And because if you saw me lying on a blanket, you'd go, hey, why is that albino walrus wearing sunglasses? Which, whenever I read that line in class, the kids laugh. And I don't know if you thought it was funny, but like, this is also a time where I tell the kids to write in the book. If that's funny, write LOL. You can use that quote for something. So, an albino walrus. So mostly I just vegetate in the basement and pick my navel. To quote Grimm, the Mr. Belly Button Lint himself. Yuck. Freak changes all that. Each and every morning, the little dude humps himself over and bangs on the bulkhead. Wonka, wonka, wonka. He may be small, but he sure is nosy. Get out of bed, you lazy beast. There are fair maidens to rescue, dragons to slay. Which is what he says every single morning. Exactly the same thing. Until it's like he's this alarm clock. And as soon as I hear wonka, wonka, wonka of him beating the bulkhead, I know what's coming next. Fair maidens and dragons, and Freak with that wake up the world grin of his going, hurry up with the cereal. How can you eat that much, you big ox? Come on, let's do something. He's so full of ever-ready energy, you can practically hear his brain humming. And he can never sit still. His brain humming. What a beautiful personification. Brains can't hum, can they? No, they can't. That's a personification. So I'm glad you thought it was funny. It's true. I know, because I've read this book, Roxy, out loud to classes so many times. I know what parts the kids think are funny. I mean, what I think is funny is totally different. Sometimes I just skip it. But I know that part is funny, right? An albino walrus wearing sunglasses. Because you could picture it, right? Anyhow. So he can't sit still. Ants in the pants. Oh, and I want to say something real quick, because I stopped already and I might as well. In the back of the book is this awesome section called Freak's Dictionary. So it's all the words that Freak uses, and like the A's are so awesome. Aardvark and abacus and algorithm and allegory, archetype, arithmetic, armor, right? So there's so much rich vocabulary in here that the kids don't even notice they're learning it, because the storyline engages them, right? And a good teacher is a good storyteller and a good reader out loud. And every teacher is a teacher of reading. Every single one of you. I wish everyone knew that. Okay, ants in the pants, I say one morning when he's ready to yank the cereal bowl off the table. He's in such a hurry to do something. And he goes, what? And I go, you must have ants in your pants. And he gets this funny look on his face and he goes, that's what the fair Gwen always says. Did she tell you to say that? And I shake my head and finish the cereal real slow. And Freak goes, for your information, there are 2,247 known subspecies of Hymenopteran insects, Latin name Formicidae, and none of them are in my pants. So basically there are 2,247 types of ants. I didn't know that. I assume it to be true because it's like realistic fiction. So I never have looked that up. Anyhow, which this cracks me up, even though I don't understand a word he's saying. I propose a quest, he says. We shall journey far to the east and see what lies there. By now, I know what a quest is because Freak has explained the whole deal. How it started with King Arthur trying to keep all his knights busy by making them do things that proved how strong and brave and smart they were, or sometimes how totally numb. Because how else can you explain dudes running around inside clunky tin cans and praying all the time? Which I don't mention to Freak because he's very sensitive about knights and quests and secret meanings. Like how a dragon isn't really just a big slimy fire-breathing monster. It's a symbol of nature or something. A dragon is fear of the natural world, Freak says. An archetype of the unknown. I go, what's an archetype? And Freak sighs. And shakes his head and reaches into his knapsack for his dictionary. And I just want you to know, this has been my dictionary since 1987. I kid you not. This is, if you don't know what a pocket dictionary is because you're a millennial and like your parents didn't buy you these, they're like these little dictionaries. This one has 30,000 words. And you can literally fit it in your pocket. It's like the size of a phone, but maybe a little thicker, like an older version phone, like the old Blackberries. But like, yeah, look, I'll even show you the copyright. 1987. I was in high school, and Freak carries the pocket dictionary. I don't know many medical doctors that don't have some kind of medical dictionary in their pockets. It's what we do when we have a ton of information to remember and we want to know it better and make sure we have the right answer. We look for the facts. Anyhow, so Ants in the Pants cracks him up. He proposes a quest and he's talking about archetypes. And of course, Freak says archetypes. And this is true. He really does keep a dictionary in his knapsack. And it's his favorite book, and he pulls it out like Arnold Schwarzenegger pulling out a machine gun or something. That's the fierce look he gets with a book in his hands. Go on, he says, making me take the book, look it up. And now I wish I hadn't said anything about this archetype dude because I hate looking up stuff in his stupid dictionary. Start with A, he says. I know that. A-R, he says, just go along the A's until you come to A-R. Yeah, right. Easy for a genius to use the dictionary, since he already knows how to spell the words. And R's never look like backward E's to Freak, which is the way they look to me sometimes, unless I really squint and think about it. So doesn't it sound like, remember in the beginning, he said he was in the LD class? He has dyslexia. And when you have dyslexia, it truly puts a strain on your brain when you're trying to learn how to read. It's very frustrating. And unless you work with someone like me who's an expert in that kind of stuff, you can just give up really early in life on reading. And that can affect your whole life. And I know we have books we can listen to, and I'm a fond. It's like a fan and fond of. I'm a fan of Audible. I listen to books every single day, but the skill of reading and what it can do for your heart and your empathy and how you can just visualize these characters and these scenes in your mind and create it all on your own with your own imagination. There's magic in there. And I like to make sure kids know they have that magic, right? And so he has to squint and think about it. And think when little kids are really thinking hard, what do they sometimes do? They squint their eyes, they turn their heads, they stick out their tongues, right? Careful, he says, you'll bite off your tongue, and then we'll have to waste the day at the emergency room getting it reattached. Microsurgery is such a bore. Didn't anybody ever tell you that? Huh? I say, but I do close my mouth so my tongue doesn't stick out. I'm still looking in the dictionary for archetype, and I'm looking for words that are underlined with red ink, because that's what Freak does the first time he looks up a word. He makes a line under it. And you'd be amazed how many are underlined. There are whole pages like that where he's looked up every single word. finally, he spells out all the letters for me, and I find the stupid word. "There's nothing about dragons here," I say, squinting hard at the stuff under the word. "It just says pattern." "So what is it? A sewing type of thing?" Freak has this disgusted look, and he takes the dictionary and he goes, "You're hopeless. Pattern is the first definition. I was referring to the second definition, which is much more interesting. A universal symbol or idea is the psyche expressed in dreams or dreamlike images." That's the definition of archetype, in case you missed it. Like, that helps, right? I'm getting bored with the dictionary, so I pretend to understand, and Freak finally gives up and he shakes his head and goes, "I don't know why I bother. Dinosaurs had brains the size of peanuts and they ruled the earth for 1,000,000 years. So now we know the dinosaur brain was definitely Max's brain, because Freak's brain is the genius brain. So that's the end of chapter 8. And one of the things that I love about this chapter is I always taught kids who were struggling when I taught this book, right? So this idea that they're dumb because they can't read, it's so wrong and it's so pervasive, and it takes an expert to know how to work with that kid, and that kid, like, a child learns to read one at a time. And I feel for the kids who find learning hard and hopeless, and like they feel like they're hopeless. And so that's kind of like why I do what I do, because there's gonna come a day in your life when you need maturity and you need skill, and reading is going to get you where you need to go, right? You're going to have to read to be successful in whatever endeavors you do. The better you understand, the quicker you understand, and the more you understand, the deeper level that you understand. Life kind of comes alive when everything has different and new meaning, right? And you get to expand your horizons. So that's chapter 8. Chapter 9 is Life is Dangerous. And so that's it for tonight, you all. Have a good night. Thank you for joining me, and sweet dreams. Toodles. Okay, over here.